Welcome, and thanks for joining us today. This is Paul from Anedot. So this is Anedot Learn, where we help you grow your organization through giving. Today, I'm going to talk about some new product updates we've released and also answer any questions you might have. So I'll just get started. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my screen and talk about a few changes we've made to the platform here in the last day or so. And one I'm excited about because for any customer that's been with us for a while, for more than more than a year or two, has used our campaigns product. And the campaigns product, we are eagerly trying to sunset and move everybody to action pages. So if you're not used to action pages, this is action pages. This is the action page builder. And in action page builder, we just introduced a new feature to allow you to do 2 columns similar to the story layout in campaigns. And so you'll now see under the design tab in Action Page Builder, you have both 1 column as well as 2 column. And then you can choose if you want the form to be on the left side or the right side of the content. So as a quick example, here's what maybe the 1 column lookup would look like. And then here's what the 2 column would look like. And so you can adjust this image, you can adjust this content, all that's configurable and editable here in Builder. And you can drag those blocks around and kind of do that as you've maybe seen in a previous video. But that's one thing. The second thing that's interesting is you can also switch to a stepped layout. So when you have time, go check that out. The stepped layout basically takes it from a single view form to a kind of a stepped version where you first are asked for what donation amount you want, and then you can choose whether you want to do like PayPal or Apple Pay or Google Pay, or if you want to check out with a credit card or bank account, which then would take you to step 2 where you fill out your personal details if you're not already logged in, which would then take you to step 3, which would be to type in your payment details if you're not using one of those express checkout methods like Apple Pay or Google Pay. So that's just a quick update on the page layouts and form presentations. We can post a link after this also too that if you forget where that is, but it's really easy. You go into Action Page Builder under Design, and it's going to be right there on the left if you scroll down in the sidebar, and you can choose your page layout, your form position, and your form presentation. So the topic for today really is about Tandem. And so that's a feature that let me just talk about it really quick, is when you've got, let's say you want to partner with another organization or you want to raise money for another organization in tandem with raising money for your own organization. And so you decide you want to partner with them and you want to be able to have a single donation page and allow people to make a gift that is split across both those organizations in real time. Now, the donor might choose to give 50% one way and 50% another, or they might choose to give 80% one way and 20% another. That's all configurable. And I'll walk in, I'll go into Form Builder here and show you what that looks like also, so that you can see that in action. So this is what it's going to look like in Builder. So within the finance area, you already know that you have funds, or maybe you don't know you have funds, but within the builder, you can actually set up your funds, and you can, generally speaking, most accounts only might have one fund. Some accounts that use fund accounting might have a fund for their general fund, for a building fund, education, missions, whatever the case may be, and donors can split their donations that way also. And I'll kind of loop back around that just in case anybody's not familiar with funds. But this feature, the Tandem feature, kind of builds on funds and allows you to connect a fund from a third-party organization that you're working with. So a quick example here, just to kind of show you, is similar to regular funds. You would come in here, and I'm going to delete this. You would come in here and it's going to actually have it listed in your list of funds. So you can search for that and it'll do a live search. You can add that in there, and then I can choose to say, okay, I want 33. I want it to be split 33, 33, 33, right? So I'm going to save that, and then we'll come over here and we'll show you what that looks like. So whenever I come to the page, if I click 100, it's automatically going to split the donation. Success Sandbox is the name for our sandbox test account. So that's what our team uses when we're doing demos or walkthroughs. External account and external account 2, that would be the name or the display name of the third party that you're working with or that you're kind of supporting or joint fundraising with. We name these external account 1 and external account 2 just to make it very clear that that's what that is. But that's customizable. You can also choose in the builder if you want this to be shown by default, where it has these funds just showing all the time, or if you want it to be collapsed like this. And if it's collapsed, then it's going to tell you that, hey, look, your donation will be split between these funds. And somebody can always click in there and then change that. If you go in there and change it, though, then that's going to change the split, right? So in the builder here, there's a way, if you don't want them to be able to change the split, then what you can say is no, I don't want to allow modification of the funds. So by default, we have it to where the donor can change the allocation. You can set it initially where that's what it is on page load. But we also have it to where you can say, no, we're not going to allow modification of funds. That's useful. Maybe if you're a local organization with a national parent, that you want to say, okay, look, every donation, 20% of it is going to go to our national organization, right? Every time, we don't let anybody change that. That's what it's going to be. So there's a lot of different cool kind of offshoots of that you could use that functionality to achieve. Expand on load was what I was talking about also, to where you can have it to where, yes, it expands on load, or you can have it not expand on load by default. You can also drag these funds down to be shown in drop down. And this is more just a general fund feature. And if you drag those to be in the drop down, right, and you don't have it shown by default, then what can happen is when you load the page, somebody can select an amount, and then they can choose to add those external funds or even your internal funds if they want to expand that and kind of create that donation to be able to go to those. So with that, this is Tandem. It works with all of our other features. So you see here, cover the fees, donor pays fees, also works with that. And yeah, so I think with that, I'm going to bring on Patrick from our team, and maybe, I'm not sure if Colleen's coming on or not, but Patrick on our team, and kind of talk through some real world examples, maybe some things that we've seen that customers have used the Tandem feature for, and kind of talk through that and answer some questions from people, because this is kind of a unique feature. Patrick, I haven't really seen this out in the world with other platforms. So it seems to be kind of a unique feature to Anedot.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about it is, it's been used in politics here and there, but not in a direct way like this, and not to support other organizations other than like candidates. What's been interesting in some of the tests we ran, and this was, very much an MVP when we did it, is we saw on average pages that use Tandem raised about 50% more than non-Tandem pages. And the reason for that is it's a novel ask. Most people are used to being asked, to raise money for your organization or your candidate or whoever it might be all the time, but now you're introducing someone new. So the one example I think that works very well, and I think, a couple of weeks ago, Tracy Dietz kind of alluded to this in our last Anedot Learn, is that veterans groups. So veterans groups that partner together and raise money together can work very well. So that's one example that we have seen a lot of success with. A couple other examples that may be relevant to think about would be on giving days. Let's say you're going to have a giving day and you want 5 or 10 ideologically aligned organizations to work together, and you're all making the push together. That's another example. Another one would be state and local chapters, or national and state chapters. So organizations that have chapters underneath them, right, in different organizations like that. So those are all different use cases, but the idea here is, just like you may want to raise donations into 2 different bank accounts, you also might want to raise donations into 2 different organizations. And that's really what this can be used for, is to pair together multiple organizations to raise money together and not have to push them in 3 different directions.
Yeah, and Patrick, it might seem counterintuitive, right, to be like, oh, let me raise money for this other organization, because you're like, no, I want all the money for my organization, right? But what we've seen really is whenever you start partnering with those other organizations, you're really kind of expanding your donor universe in many ways, because now you have more people that might be open to giving to you or giving to the other organization and vice versa. Another thing I think that's interesting that I've seen that the team that you've helped implement for people is that this is also interesting for organizations that might be a nonprofit, but then they also have they might be a C3, but they also have a connected C4. They might also have a connected political action committee. And then that gives them the ability to have a single donation page where their donors can support their entire mission within a single step, rather than having to be like, oh, go donate to our PAC, go donate to our C4. And because of the way that we do our disclaimers, you can have all those disclaimers show up automatically at the bottom of those pages based on the funds that are being shown.
Yeah, 100%. That's come up a number of times as well. When you do have those situations where you might have different entities for different purposes and you're trying to do different things. It just kind of, gets rid of the sort of the lock on you where you say, hey, I need a different account because it's a different EIN. But I do, these are entities that all actually work together and all actually do things. So those are some of the different use cases that I do believe are really beneficial. The other thing that I've seen as well is, let's just say, candidates are splitting the cost on something. It could be an event, it could be something else. Organizations are working together on something. That's another example of it. And to the point you just made, it is very beneficial for prospecting. No matter how ideologically aligned or similar 2 different organizations might be, they still will have a different donor list or a different supporter list. So the fact that you can go out there and not only raise a similar amount of money, but also go out and recruit all these new people, that would be awesome.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, so I'm not seeing any questions yet, but I'm going to bring up something I think is really useful that comes up a lot, Patrick. And this does work with, it might take a little bit of coaching from our customer experience team, but it's something that I've seen a lot of people use, and people might not be familiar with it unless they came from the agency world or something like that. And so I'm going to pull up my screen again and show people this this functionality. So what we call URL parameters, and you see here this like source code. You can pass a source code to do tracking and stuff like that. But one of the really practical ways, especially if you're doing a good job with keeping track of your donors and kind of who your donors are and all that kind of stuff, or maybe you have your email list segmented. And you know that, hey, these donors are more prone to give $25 or $50. These other donors are more prone to give, $175 and $200. We have a help article, and I'll link that. We can link that in the notes. But you can put actually like amounts equals, and you see that my amounts right here are 25, 50, 100, and 200. You can actually change that on the fly. So you could actually put 10, 25, let's put 50 and 75. So whenever I do that, that's actually going to automatically update the amount array here. So that's a really unique feature, really interesting that I don't think everybody knows about, but I think it's one of those nice things to know. You can also add a URL parameter with an ampersand and amount, singular, and then put in like one of those values or even another value, which would then just select the other value here. But if I do the 50 here, what it's going to do is going to go ahead and pre-select that $50 on the page. So there's a lot of really interesting kind of use cases for that, that we've seen people do both in the political world and the nonprofit world. And that's just a kind of a tip, I guess, because I was seeing that. Somebody asked me about that earlier today. And I think that could be helpful to our just broader audience, to our customer base. So that's all that I have really from product today, Patrick.
There's one other one too, Paul, that's interesting, tied to URL parameters. So the tandem feature can also use URL parameters. So we had one use case last year where a organization had created a separate directory page. and they had a bunch of different accounts, that were all connected and could be used for Tandem. And they actually used the URL parameter to say, oh, actually, I want these 3 different accounts, or I want these 2 different accounts. And that was a way that they were able to dynamically pull many different options. So, think about it this way. Maybe you don't want a page with just a single organization, but you want a page with, one of 50, right? And you want somebody to be able to choose one of those 50 and have yours in that one of those 50 there. URL parameters can also allow you to do that. So to Paul's point, highly recommend checking out URL parameters, because they can be used so dynamically, whether it be for Tandem, amount arrays. They can be used for major donors. So let's say you don't want a major donor to type in their first name, their last name, the address. You can actually pull all of that in, which reduces the amount of information somebody might need to type in. So for people who are very technical and want to do, kind of the dynamic URLs, you can do some really cool things that can reduce the amount of information that someone needs to provide.
That's a great point, Patrick. I think that's also another great use case, especially for organizations that maybe want to raise money for multiple organizations, because that's also a unique feature of Tandem, is that you don't have to put your fund on the page. You can just raise money for somebody else. Maybe your organization's doing well and you really just want to create a page to help raise money for a sister organization. And you can equally do that with the Tandem functionality. But thanks for listening. I'm not sure if there's any questions. If there's not, or if you don't have any right now and you're kind of processing them in your head, and you're one of the type of people that aren't going to ask a question on a live, feel free to email our team, right? So we've got our team that you can email. You can email me directly if you want to, or Patrick directly, or Colleen, or anybody on our team. So happy to do this. Yeah. Looking forward to next month as well, and also looking forward to the other Anedot Learns. Tracy, that was a great live y'all did the other day, Patrick, and a lot of great learnings from that. So appreciate what the team's doing with these lives.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if anyone needs help, email us, help@anedot.com. We can help you get connected accounts and Tandem set up. And as Paul said, keep an eye out for the future Anedot Learns. If you have suggestions, questions, anything else that we can help with, please let us know, because we're trying to take that feedback and interview people on topics that might interest you.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening to Anedot Learn.
Yep, and we'll see you on the next one.